Trump has just announced a sweeping new tariff on cars.
This is very modest. And what we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff. Business is coming back to the United States so that they don't have to pay tariffs.
President Trump announced 25% tariffs against our auto industry. And this is a direct attack, to be clear, a direct attack on the very workers that I stood in front of, uniform workers I stood in front of this morning at the Ambassador Bridge, a bridge that is a symbol and a reality up until now of the tight ties between our two countries, ties of kinship, ties of commerce, ties that are in the process of being broken. We will defend our workers. We will defend our companies. We will defend our country, and we will defend it together. You know, this will hurt us, but through this period, by being together, we will emerge stronger. I think what's happened, and this was part of our discussion, over the course of the last several months, Canadian workers, Canadians as a whole across this country, have gotten over the shock of the betrayal and are learning the lessons. We have to look out for ourselves, and we have to look out for each other. It would be appropriate that the President and I speak, given the action that he's taken. I'm sure that will happen soon. I'm not going to give you a precise timing on that. In terms of options, which was the second part of Ms. Martin's question, even during a caretaker period of government, we have anticipated this possibility. We have put in place the mechanisms so that if it is appropriate for retaliatory tariffs, and there's many considerations to be taken in those regards, and I want to have the meeting of our cabinet, Canada-U.S. cabinet, other considerations. We need to see the details of the executive order.
Buyer beware, your next car could cost more money.
This is very modest. And what we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff. Business is coming back to the United States so that they don't have to pay tariffs.
A very modest 25% tariff, the president says. My political sources are here, Paul Begala and Scott Jennings, along with my deeply sourced White House insiders, Zolan Cano-Youngs from the New York Times and Isaac Arnsdorf from the Washington Post. And Isaac, this was something the White House announced later this afternoon. They said the president's going to be making an announcement on auto tariffs. This is a 25% tariff on all imports coming into the U.S., and he said it starts April 2nd. Obviously, he was arguing that that will be, in the end, better for the American consumer. But what have you heard from sources about how this all came about today?
Well, obviously, Trump was elected to lower prices, not raise them. And he is betting that the long run, that Americans are going to stick with him in the long run for the but factories aren't built overnight. And he's acknowledged that there's going to be pain in the meantime. And I've been assured by the White House that we're not going to see a repeat on April 2nd of what happened a month ago, where the markets panicked, the other countries scrambled, and they agreed, well, we have some concessions, let's work it out, let's pause it, let's delay it a month. You know, is this going to be happening every month? Are we going to have that whiplash scare every month that then gets dialed back? I've been assured this time, April 2nd is real.
Well,
elbows up! Elbows up!
I don't care how many times they try and tell us that we can't stand on the streets of our own cities. This is our city. This is our country, this is our democracy, and we will defend it. They're telling us that this is somehow not Toronto anymore, so we're not in a confrontation, but this is our city. That's a foreign power that's threatening us. We are not stepping on their property, but they're now telling us that our city doesn't belong to us. So we've asked for someone to come and explain why they can block Canadian citizens and threaten us in our own city.
This is a public sidewalk.
No, we will. We're not. We're
to climb over the barrier.
We are not. We are not confrontational. The United States is confronting us. We're peaceful, so we're going to hold our ground here. Awesome to meet you.
I follow you on Facebook.
Well, thank you for coming. So we're just going to.
So great. You're so great.
No, you guys are great.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you guys. So we're just going to hold our ground. This is our city, right?
Yes. Yes.
And when did they take our city away from us?
Never.
Never. And when will they take our city away from us? Never. Never. So everybody, we're just going to stay cool. We're hoping that we'll have someone. Maybe Pierre Poilievre will come down. I hear he's in Ontario. He might be getting instructions. He might come down and talk to us. I came out hoping I'd see him. Maybe J.D. Vance will come down. Apparently, I think he's up there with J.D. Vance now. So
Which is Pierre's bedroom? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I was hoping I'd get an invite in, but they are not going to remove us from our city, right?
Absolutely.
So everyone just stay cool, and we'll hang out and we'll see what happens. So
Not be a 51st state.
we are not a 51st state, and this is our city. This is not an American city. If this is an American city, they could fire tear gas at us, they could threaten us, they could deport us to El Salvador, but they can't because we're Canadian and we're in a country ruled by the rule of law, right?
Yes. Elbows up.
Elbows up, elbows up, elbows up, elbows up. So everyone keep the peace. The police here are not the problem. They are being forced by the superiors in the United States, but we're going to keep the peace, right?
Yes.
Elbows up.
Elbows up.
For everybody?
The people who are gathering here, this is Canada.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. But all I'm saying
I
is
just think it would be some goodwill to have the RCMP come out and explain what they're doing for the...
so
But in terms of public safety, I think you could be assured that everyone here is a peaceful Canadian.
and
So
I thank everybody
yeah.
for
Thank
being
you.
peaceful.
Yeah.
And
We are peaceful.
your rights.
We just are going to have to hear from someone inside that we are not allowed to be here on a Canadian street. Hello, how are you doing? Charlie Angus.
Ruben, nice to meet you. I'm part of the police liaison. Is it possible to go on the outside of the barriers? Or...
On the outside of the barriers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you just explain what the concern is? I mean, we're all very,
it's just for
because they'd asked us not to stand on there, which was their property, and we said, yeah, and we've been making sure nobody. But you guys got bikes on their property. I wouldn't want one of them taking your bikes out. You know, you don't know what they're going to do up there. So yeah.
So every other protester.
Okay, so you're asking if we're just on the other side of the barricades?
Okay. That's all. That's
Okay.
all, yeah.
Okay. What's your name?
Ruben Ganeshalan.
Ruben. Charlie Angus. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, folks. We're gonna go on the other side of the barrier. Okay. We're gonna help Toronto police here so that they don't have to deal with the people upstairs. So we're gonna walk over. But this is still our city. This is still our street. But since we were asked politely, which is how we do things in Canada, being polite, I think, is a good reason to help out. The Americans are not being polite. They're all hiding in their windows. And Pierre, come on down. Pierre, come on down. I came to see you. Like, what are you doing up there, Pierre? Come on, Pierre. Okay, so let's all...
Anybody in there?
Okay, so let's all head over, and we'll just stand on this side. And I just want to thank you for letting me crash your rally, by the way.
You got it.
But that's Canada. Wherever we go in Canada is home. And any community I've ever been in, for the first time I felt I was at home. Because that's who we are. Because we are about decency. We are about inclusion. We are about tolerance. And that is why Donald Trump hates our guts. Yeah, he wants to get our water. And he wants to steal our critical minerals, but fundamentally he cannot stand that there is a nation of diversity, equity, and inclusion on his border. Now we know DEI is like the latest thing that freaks them out, kind of like Antifa. What, being an anti-fascist? I come from a long line of anti-fascists. My uncles kicked Nazi butt all over Europe. They were Antifa before I was born. But they tell us that diversity, equity, inclusion is something they hate. Well, in Canada, we are a nation of diverse people. We believe in equity, and we believe in inclusion. So all the Americans over there with their DUI, they can hate us and they can tell us they don't want to see us on our streets, but these streets belong to us. This country belongs to us. And what gives me hope is the incredible optimism and determination of every Canadian that I meet. I don't have to ask where you're going to be between Vimy and Vichy. I know where you'll be. You'll be standing on the Ridge of Freedom with the rest of us. You are the leaders of this movement. It's not the politicians. It's ordinary.
How about this for a warning from one auto industry expert? The price of new cars in the U.S. will skyrocket in coming weeks, and maybe even sooner than you think, after President Trump announced 25% tariffs are coming on all cars and car parts shipped to the U.S. Quote, "There's probably not a vehicle on the market today that wouldn't be affected in some form or fashion by tariffs." Leaders of some of America's biggest trading partners, also known as some of America's closest allies, are pushing back hard overnight about this. Try on another warning for size from the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford.
That $65 billion of tariffs that we have on the table that we can launch towards the U.S., we have to run through every tariff and minimize the pain for Canadians, maximize the pain for Americans. And I feel terrible for the Americans, but it's one person, it's President Trump, that's creating this chaos.
Joining us right now is Mark Zandi, the chief economist for Moody's Analytics. It's good to see you, Mark. Thank you for coming in. 25% tariffs coming for cars and basically all cars, since it also applies to car parts. What is this going to mean? What's your analysis on what people need to be preparing for?
Well, Kate, it means higher prices and it means fewer jobs. I mean, on the higher price side, a lot of moving parts here, a lot of uncertainty. But I think if the tariffs are imposed as articulated and stay in place, by this time next year, the typical car price will be somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 more. So, right now the average car price is $50K. So that means you're going to be paying $55K to $60K as a result of the tariffs. And then I do expect that it's going to cost jobs. You'll see retaliation. You just heard the Canadians talk about this. Other countries will respond, no doubt. And that means U.S. manufacturers are going to have trouble selling what they produce to those countries, and it'll cost jobs. And you don't really need to go too far back to see this. If you go back to President Trump's first term and look at what happened with manufacturing activity, jobs, and prices.
Guys, what you're seeing here is, again, Canada snapping back. And you're seeing Canadian protesting. And what's really interesting is that the police seem to be almost telling us to be nicer to Trump in Canada, but we're not listening to them. That's Charlie Angus, NDP MP. The police in Canada federally, it's a Liberal government. If you see our CMP telling you to stop, that is under Carney, who's saying some decent things there, but ultimately isn't as strong as the NDP on this. And provincially, if you're in Ontario, the provincial police are under Doug Ford, right? Let's be clear. Canadians have a right to protest. Even things that are unpopular, right? You have to have the right to unpopular protests. But certainly you have the right to protest the American annexation attempt of Canada, which is opposed by like 90% of Canadians. And in Toronto, I'm guessing that number is much higher, right? And in big cities in Ontario, where the population is more progressive and less MAGA. But what Canada is demonstrating is that they're going to keep fighting. Again, while the United States is being divided, the U.S. is being divided on the question of tariffs. Canada is being united. And that's something bad for Trump. And it's going to hurt him on the only thing he's ever been popular at. Even when Trump's been unpopular, his economic numbers, irrationally, have been decent. Not anymore.